computer.
Good day and welcome to Mr. Wilson Live. It is indeed another wonderful evening, and we're expecting that we're going to be having a great time. Please be reminded to like, share, and subscribe. I want you to invite on over all your friends, your classmates, as this evening is going to be a class that's a little different. I'm going to be looking at the persons who are here. I do hope that Tanisha is here. I do hope that Amoy is here because I have some things for them to do. But how are you doing this evening? Tell me in the chat. Tell me in the chat, how are we doing this evening? So Audrey's here. D'Souza, I haven't seen you quite some time. Gray is here, always here. Barnett is here, always here. Treasure is here. Cheryl is here. Pinedo is also here. And of course, D'Souza, as I said earlier, is here. So we're waiting on the other persons to come. Jay is a new name. I don't know Jay, but welcome to the show. Jawawan is here. Rennie Harrison is here and now a regular visitor to the show. But we're happy that you're here. We're hoping that you'll stay until the end. Melody Anderson is also here. And of course, Macmillan is here. Treasure is here. So a whole lot of persons are in the house this evening. Welcome to the show. I am, like I said earlier, I am really, really happy to have you. But this evening is going to be a show a little different than we would have. Now, you might wonder why. Because I have some work to do today for work tomorrow that wouldn't allow me to be here for the entire show. So for that reason, I have planned a different thing for you. I really don't want you to waste the time because we have a whole lot to cover. You would have seen, for those persons who have not seen the timetable before, I did post the timetable earlier today, so you can go through and look for your subjects. And that is, of course, going to be the final timetable. Now, in that playlist, there is I think it's called Breaking News, CXC Breaking News. You want to look at that as well if you have not seen it as yet. That is going to, of course, provide a whole lot of guidance for you. Crystal Mackenzie is in the house. I am very grateful to have you here. And then I'm hoping that I'm not missing anyone. I am waiting to give you. Anna is in the house as well. Anna just got up. Anna, you're fine? All right, let me fetch Anna and come back. Anna. All right. All right, so Anna is in the house. Just got up. He was asleep. So the lineup for this evening, you might be wondering what it's. I did send two links a while ago to you. It is HSB link for the 2019 and 2020 papers. Now, what I want you to do, the live will be open at least for an hour. I will be on the other side of the screen doing some work. But what I want you to do, I want you to go through for the second time the 2020 paper, and you're going to do the 2019 paper. Now, the idea behind what I'm doing is that I want you to familiarize yourself with these questions and familiarize yourself with some answers and do some studies as well. And then, not today, but one day, probably in the week or next week, I'm going to give you a past paper that has nothing to do with any of the year that is posted. I'm just going to be giving you a different past paper. All right? And then I'm going to give you an hour to do the past paper. So I'm going to upload the past paper right before the live. Then I'm going to send you the link. You are the only person who will be able to see it. The person on the internet won't be able to see it. So I'm going to be sending you the link through the live. You are going to go to the past paper. You are going to do the past paper. And then we are going to release the answer for the questions. So it's very important that you go through these past papers because we must convince you that these questions are questions that repeat from time to time, and we want to get you there. So we have sent out papers already for HSB. Now I wanted Amoy to supervise the HSB paper. What it means is that if you have anything to say, you'll type it back in the chat, and I will, of course, come back and look at it from time to time. Or if there's anybody in the chat can answer, they will answer. But I'm expecting that we're going to be having a discussion, and the discussion is going to be in the chat. Because the thing about it, this is like a camp, and it's a digital camp, right? Persons are all over the Caribbean. So you are going to be interfacing here. Now, I don't want anybody to be rude in the room. You know that I really don't treat well with that. But I want where persons have questions, you can shoot the question, type it in the chat here. So we're going to be doing the 2020 paper first. We have done it one time already. I don't know if you read what I wrote earlier, but I'm going to be looking at the back end of YouTube, and it will tell me how many persons are watching the paper. So don't remember, one of my study tips said that you should not lie to yourself. Don't lie to yourself. You already devoted this time to have a live this evening. And what I'm doing is just doing a little different, just do some practical. We've covered a big portion of the syllabus. And of course, we can take a little time down, and then we're going to pick up again on meiosis. I have two videos I wanted to release. I could tell you what is in the video. I'm going to do that now. I'm going to try to open the file and tell you what is in the video. You don't want to go? All right, come. Thought you wanted to go. All right, no problem. You want to see yourself, I guess. So you want to be here standing. Oh, you want to tell him bye-bye? You telling him bye-bye? No? Not telling him any bye-bye. All right, cool. All right, so I wanted to talk about two little things before you up onto the paper. I'll tell you when to go to the paper. And biology students, you're going to get a paper for yourself. So don't worry yourself. You're going to get a paper. But I just want somebody to supervise this paper. And that person could, whatever there is that I didn't answer, that person could send me that email at the back end, and I'll look at it probably tonight or sometime, and I'll answer it in the comment. So just let me just look here. Amo is not here. If Amo is not here, then let me tell you who's going to pick up if Amo is not here until Amo is usually late. Jawawan, you are going to be supervising this paper, the HSB paper. So if there are things that person would have posted and I did not get to answer them, you are going to send me an email and ask me to look at whatever it is and have it addressed. Now, the bio students, if you are doing bio, just let me know so I can say how many persons and what type of paper to give and who is going to be that liaison person. I'm looking for the file to tell you, don't you remember where I stored that? To tell you what I wanted to look at. I wanted to just talk a little bit before I go about the broad topics. You might have seen that document that I sent out where CXC sent 5 weeks before the exam, or 5 weeks, 5 weeks something. You'll be advised as to the broad topics that will be on the exam. Now, I know that persons are asking a whole lot of questions around what is the broad topic, what is meant by the broad topic. I am going to share that with you very quickly. You want to listen to some of the stuff I have to say now. These are sort of outside of class. These are like exam tactics, exam tips and tricks. So just let me go through that. I might go through an Excel document and give you some data as well. All right, so let me tell you now. So very quickly, for human and social biology, the syllabus is organized under 5 main sections, and these 5 main sections are considered the broad topic. Now, we are pretty much at about section 3. Section 3, so it means that we are in the middle of the syllabus, which means that we would have covered most of the work, and we have 2 other sections to cover. But let me tell you the broad topics for HSB, should in case you don't know and want to pretty much go ahead at CXC. The first broad topic is going to be 1, which is living organisms and the environment. The second broad topic is going to be life processes. The third broad topic is going to be heredity and variation. That's what we're doing now. Then we have 4, disease and impacts on humans. That is pretty much a 4th broad topic. And the 5th broad topic, a 5th and final, is going to be the impact of health practices on the environment. So those are the broad topics for HSB. CXC did say because of the pandemic, they will be looking at modifying somewhat the output for the exam. So they said that within about 5 weeks' time, I think it's about 5 weeks from the exam or 5 weeks from when the document was published. I don't even remember which is the 5 week, but it is 5 weeks. I think somebody said in the last class that whatever 5 week will come up sometime in about May 10th or thereabout. I don't know, thereabout. I didn't do the calculation. So we know that they are saying that within that 5 week period that we've been talking about, they are going to publish the topics for the broad topics for the respective syllabus that you should know. So we said that from that 5 week, having gotten that information, we are going to be zeroing on these topics. Never mind. So I'm going to look at the biology broad topics now. The biology broad topics are going to be, well, biology pretty much has 3 topics. So it's going to be living organisms and the environment. That is section A. Then you have section B, life processes and disease. And then you have continuity and variation. Biologists, you would have realized that we are pretty much at the end of your syllabus because we are doing continuity and variation, and within another couple of weeks we will be finished. We have a little distance to go for HSB, but everything will be fine, no need to worry. They did say that 5 weeks before the exam you will know the broad topics for the exam, and that is something from CSEC. So now that we have an idea what's the broad topic, and just let me go back here one little bit. And now that we know where we are on the syllabus for those persons who are not using the syllabus, we are at heredity on the syllabus. The truth is that we have covered, I think, all the Punnett Square by videos on the channel. You could go and watch them. What we have to do, I think we had the pedigree chart to do and to talk a little more about variation, but there is already video on my channel on variation. So we are not going to be wasting the time to go over what we already have. If we have a video for it, we're not going to do a live on it. That is sort of duplicating the purpose of this thing. So we are going to be out of variation, I think, this week. By the end of this week, we should be out of variation, and we will start disease. We are going to be doing disease and its impact on human, and then we are going to be looking at the impact of health practices on the environment. But there's some other document I want to bring to your attention. I'll have to put it on the screen. And we're talking about exam tactics now. For those persons who are joining us for the first time, yes, we usually have lessons, but today, like I said, it's going to be a little different. I'm going to be giving you some data that I pretty much accumulate. I got some from a friend overseas, and I did do some operation on the data. And I'm going to be looking at the data to just tell you the questions that have been repeated over 10 years. I did do some work on the data. I am still doing some work on the data. I'm trying to see if I can put a formula in to predict what the exam is going to be, but I think we have to do some more work with it. I'll be looking at the screen a bit. Just give me a second. Let me go back and fetch this data. Cool. Here we are. So I did some work on the data. I'm going to be sharing some stuff with you now very quickly. You're not going to find this information anywhere else. And we have not released this video. Don't know if we will release the video. But let me tell you, just listen to this very quickly. The data I have is in a Excel file. The data captures information for January and May, June exam. And the data set ended in 2020 and it started 2005. So the information that we're looking at is from 2005 to 2020. You can calculate the number of years. Now, what we have observed based on the data that we have for living organisms and the environment, you know that a whole lot of topics fall under that. We have realized that in this 15-year period, cells came on the exam paper 11 times in 15 years. In 10 years, it came on the paper 6 times. What it means is that there's a good or a great possibility that we might be seeing it again. But like we said, we're going to be working on the data some more. Now, diffusion, osmosis, and active transport, it came on the paper 6 times. Now, I'm going to be telling you the questions that would have come on the paper from a living organism and the environment. I'm going to tell you the questions that would have repeated the most on the paper. You're not going to get this information anywhere else. Photosynthesis in 15 years was repeated 8 times. Food chain was repeated 9 times. Nitrogen cycle 6 times. Characteristic of living organisms 5 times. Cells 11 times. Diffusion and osmosis 6 times. And of course, microbes, to include bacteria, virus, fungi, that type of thing. And we're talking about paper 2, would have been repeated 5 times. So there you have some information. You could go back to the data. Now, life processes, and we're going to be looking at nutrition. On the nutrition, the food test would have been on the paper 4 times in 15 years. Digestive system would have been on the paper 14 times. That's a 1 and a 4. The digestive system appeared on the paper 14 times in 15 years, 10 times in 10 years, 6 times in 5 years. Is it possible that it will be on the paper this year? We're not sure yet. We're going to be working the maths. The carbohydrate digestion came on the paper 3 times. Protein digestion came on the paper 2 times. Teeth, the diagram of the tooth, came on the paper 4 times. Enzymes 2 times. Food preservation. Oh my, we haven't seen this on the paper. In 15 years, this has only been on the paper 1 time. In 15 years, vitamins came on the paper 5 times. In 10 years, it came 3 times. In 5 years, it came once. Malnutrition, obesity, marasmus, and vitamin deficiency came on the paper 10 times in 15 years, 5 times in 10 years, and of course, 1 time in the last 5 years. Now, when I talk about 15 years, I'm talking from start to finish. When I talk about 10 years, I'm talking about from the end back 10 years. So counting from 2020 backward, that's what I'm referring to when I say 10 years. When I refer to 5 years, it's counting from 2020 backward. Now we're going to look at the muscular system. So you could figure out what it will be. We're still doing the maths around it to see if we can come up with something pretty close. So what you would have noticed so far is that a whole lot of topics have been on the paper from nutrition. Let us look at the muscular system. Now, the muscular system would contain the skeletal system, the bones, the cartilage, the muscle movement, and so on. Interestingly, the skeletal system has been on the paper 11 times in 15 years, 6 times in 10 years, and 3 times in 5 years. Muscle and movement, that has been on the paper 7 times in 15 years, 3 times in 10 years, and 3 times in, of course, 5 years. Respiration, the respiratory system, aerobic respiration and anaerobic respiration, they have been on the paper, those have been on the paper for 5 years, for 5 times in 15 years, 1 time in 10 years, and no time in, of course, 5 years. Now the lungs, it has been on the paper 9 times in 15 years, 6 times in 10 years, and 1 time in 5 years. Breathing, the breathing system has been on the paper 8 times in 15 years, 4 times in 10 years, and 3 times in 5 years. The blood has been on the paper 9 times in 15 years, 5 times in 10 years, and 1 time in the last 5 years. Blood clotting has been on the paper 2 times in 15 years, and it has not returned within the last 10 years. The heart attack and hypertension, that has been on the paper 5 times in 15 years, 4 times in 10 years, and 3 times in the last 5 years. The pacemaker has been on the paper 1 time in 15 years. The heart and blood vessel has been on the paper 11 times in 15 years, 6 times in 10 years, and 2 times in the last 5 years. The lymphatic system has been on the paper 3 times in 15 years, 2 times in 10 years, and none at all in the last 5 years. The lymphatic just now. So we move on to coordination and control. And this is broad topic number 2 that we're looking at. It's a big topic, so I expect broad topic number 2 to be one of those topics that will be mentioned in the 5-week period. Now, coordination and control, the I has been on the paper 7 times in the last 15 years, 5 times in the last 10 years, and 3 times in the last 5 years. The hormone has been on the paper 7 times in the last 15 years, 4 in the last 10 years, and 2 in the last 5 years. The nervous system has been on the paper, then we're looking at the HSB paper now. For the HSB paper, the nervous system has been on the paper 11 times in the last 15 years, 6 times in the last 10 years, and 3 times in the last 5 years. For the excretion and homeostasis, that would be excretion. Excretion would have been on the paper 3 times in the last 15 years, 2 times in the last 10 years, 2 times in the last 5 years. The kidney would have been on the paper 6 times in the last 15 years, 4 times in the last 10 years, and 1 time in the last 5 years. The skin would have been on the paper 2 times in the last 15 years, 1 time in the last 10 years, and it has not returned in the last 5 years. Homeostasis would have been on the paper 11 times in the last 15 years, 6 times in the last 10 years, and 4 times in, of course, the last 4 years. Blood glucose would have been on the paper 4 times in the last 15 years, 1 time in the last 10 years, 1 time in the last 5 years. We're looking at the reproductive system. Contraception and birth control would have been on the paper 9 times in the last 15 years, 5 times in the last 10 years, and 2 times in the last 5 years. Abortion would have been on the paper 6 times in the last 15 years, 4 times in the last 10 years, and of course, 2 times in the last 5 years. Birth process would have been on the paper 6 times in the last 15 years, 4 times in the last 10 years, and of course, 1 time in the last 5 years. Sexual and asexual reproduction would have been on the paper 13 times in the last 15 years, 9 times in the last 10 years, and 2 times in the last 5 years. Some data I have missing here. I don't know what happened, but I missed something. I'll have to go back to my text to find out what. Oh, wow. I could tell you easily here. So after sexual reproduction would have come genetics and variation. So variation, it is missing here, but I know that's what should be there. Heredity and variation came on the paper 15 times in the last 15 years. What that means is that every year, heredity and variation is on the paper. It was on the paper 15 times in the last 15 years, 7 times in the last 10 years, and of course, 2 times in the last 5 years. That much I could explain in some other session. Disease, drug abuse, alcoholism, and smoking. That would have been on the paper 9 times in the last 15 years, 6 times in the last 10 years, and 4 times in the last 5 years. Immunity and vaccination would have been on the paper 5 times in the last 15 years, 3 times in the last 10 years, and 1 time in the last 5 years. Asthma would have been on the paper 2 times in the last 10 years, 1 in the last 15 years, 1 time in the last 10 years, and it has not been on the paper for the last 5 years. Diabetes has been on the paper 9 times for the last 15 years, 8 times for the last 10 years, and 6 times for the last 5 years. STIs, that has been on the paper pretty much 2 times in the last 15 years, 1 time in the last 10 years, and it has not shown itself in the last 5 years. Autoimmune deficiency, AIDS has been on the paper 12 times, a disease you want to look out for. 12 times, 6 times in the last 10 years, 2 times in the last 5 years. Hygiene, 4 times in the last 15 years, 2 times in the last 10 years, and of course, 1 time in the last 5 years. Disease signs and symptoms, 11 times in the last 15 years, 6 times in the last 10 years, 4 times in the last 5 years. Vector, 13 times in the last 15 years, 8 times in the last 10 years, 2 times in the last 5 years. And we are looking at the HSB paper and the reoccurrence of questions. We're looking at our database that we have here that was shared with me from some friends in another Caribbean island, but I did some processing on it, looking at doing some more analysis of the data to see if we can write a formula that would closely predict what the exams will be this year. Don't underestimate our ability. We're going to try something this year, and we'll get better as we go along. We really don't understand much about how CXC set the exams, but we're going to be looking at it with a lens or a microscope, who knows. All right, so vector, we said that just now. We're going to be looking at mental illness that has been on the paper 1 time in 15 years, air pollution 7 times in 15 years, 3 times in 10 years, and 2 times in the last 5 years. Water and water pollution 16 times in the last 15 years. And of course, that means that it was more than one question. 8 times in the last 10 years and 2 times in the last 15 years. Waste disposal. Remember, we're looking at 2 exams here. We're looking at January exam, and we're also looking at the May-June exam, right? So we're looking from 05 up till 2000. What year are we now? Up until 2020. All right, waste disposal came 19 times in 15 years, 12 times in the last 10 years, and 8 times in the last 5 years. Now we did this. Let me see the formula I wrote here, what it said. Just give me a minute. Just give me a minute. I wrote the formula, but I tend to forget things sometimes. So I'd ask the computer to return cells that had occurrences greater than 3. All right. So I'd ask the computer to tell me which topic appeared in the last 5 years more than 3 times. I'd ask the computer to tell me that. This is what the computer told me. It said the digestive system returned more than 3 times in the last 5 years. It also told me that homeostasis returned more than 3 times in the last 5 years. It also told me that drug abuse, alcoholism, and smoking returned more than 3 times in the last 5 years. It also said diabetes repeated more than 3 times in the last 5 years. Disease, signs and symptoms repeated more than 3 times in the last 5 years. Waste disposal also repeated 8 times in the last 5 years. So these are areas that we're looking at. And of course, we are going to be breaking this data out a little more to see if there's anything that we can understand more from the data. We were just presenting data on the question paper 2 as to how the questions have reappeared over 15 years. And we are hoping that we'll be able to use this data to see how close we can get to questions that might be on the exam paper this year. We are going to use all the Excel that we can use to see how we can come up with something. Do not come to Mr. Wilson's session and say, Mr. Wilson, know the questions that will be on the exam paper. I don't work at CXC. I don't know the question. It is just pretty much guess that we're guessing, and we are analyzing data using mathematical formula. And the formula might be off because we really don't know what formula CXC is using. But after some time, when we use this and develop a trend, we will be able to say we are sure. But this is the first year we're going to be using all these formulas. And at the end of it, we'll say if it worked or if it didn't work. So that is why we presented you with the facts that we have. So you can determine whether or not it is useful facts. And you can tell me in the chat now if it is something that is needed, if it helps any at all, to know all the information I read out a while ago, because I was reading from my screen. To share all that information, you can tell me if it helps any at all. Sir, I see them bring things on COVID. It is a regional exam and it covers, it's a disease, right? and they can bring you any disease or pretty much anything. I mean, one might say that it is not on the syllabus, but I might just bring you up to speed with a movie I did when I was doing my master's program, a movie called Mona Lisa Smile. Mona Lisa Smile, it's a school with some really bright students, the ideal students. You can watch it in your spare time. There is nothing that the teacher could teach in the class that they didn't know. When they came to class, they said, Miss, we know that. Is there anything else you'd like to teach? We could use our time for extra reading and go to clubs and society and all of that. And this was a very new teacher. And what she did, she had to step back and then approach them. She had to go outside of the syllabus in order to teach them. So if you did virus, COVID is a virus. So yes, COVID could be on the paper, and I could tell you more. We had some hurricanes some time ago, and we had some reindeer over there in Portland, right? And the reindeer got away, and they appeared. The next time we saw these reindeer, they were on the exam paper. So things that are happening in our community, the Caribbean, that like COVID, which is a pandemic. You want to, I don't know what was on the paper. Please send me that COVID question. Please send me the COVID question. And of course, I think you are going to be seeing a COVID question again on the paper. The fact that somebody says it's on the HSB for January, it is almost certain that it is going to come back. I'm almost certain. I haven't seen the paper for 2019. Was that for HSB? The person who said COVID was on the paper. Great. Was it HSB? You haven't sent me any paper. You know, what happened to the 2021 paper? I need them. All right. So I have been holding up your time long enough now. One person said that the information I gave them a while ago helped. Some persons might be overwhelmed by so much, but we are going to, as soon as I do some more analysis on the data and I can break it down into a smaller table, I will do that and I will publish it as a video. Now it's a real big table where I am using some formulas to ask it to return this, ask it to return that. Then I have to get to the point where I have to tell the software to listen to me. Return the next exam in sequence. So we are going there. I don't know what it will tell me. I don't know what it will tell me. All right. So any question, concerns? If not, you are going to move on to 2020. And I'm going to be posting again the 2020 and I think the 2019 paper for biology. You are going to be doing to get your practice. I remember when we meet either this week or next week, I'll be giving you an older version of a paper. And of course, you are going to be expected to answer it as best as possible. You don't need to tell me your grade in the chat after you would have answered and gotten the marks. But what I'd love for you to do, I'd love for you to go to my email address, the channel email address, and at that time, send me your grade. Because I will have to map your performance. I'll have to map your performance getting into 60. Now we have to measure you. So we're going to put we will be putting your grade in Excel. And we're going to continue to give you these work. That is how we're going to have this study camp. So don't just throw the paper away, whatever. And be honest, be honest. When you do this paper, be honest. And when you get your score, just send it to us. Send it to us via email. And then we're going to watch your growth. And however we can advise you on the back end, where we can send you an email, a personal thing, we will do that. We won't comment on your grades here that everybody can see. All right. So HSB students, please start your 2020 paper. The line will be open. Please leave your questions here. Bio students, I'm going to be looking for your paper, whatever paper I want to give you now. And you're going to be doing the same thing and also be prepared for an exam sometime this week or next week. I won't tell you the day. I will just come on and send you a link and tell you can't find this link anywhere else. Click on it and that's your exam. Do it to the best of your ability. And of course, after that, I will send you the mark sheet. You'll mark them and tell me how much you got. Don't lie to yourself. HSB student, go and go to your paper and come back at the end. We'll meet in an hour time. I'm looking for bio now to see what they have.
Does he give out like good fruit? Huh? Yum. All right, I'm gonna get whatever. Whatever. Feel like you have a grudge for it's not going to be able to be. Where I go, where I go, yeah, which like,
Welcome, guys. I know that you guys are all new to the chat. I am very, very happy to have you as part of our live chat. But the only difference is that this evening we are not having a chat, so to speak. We're having what we refer to as a CSEC camp, where I would have sent to the students four past papers, two for biology and two for HSB. These past papers are already worked, but the students are expected to work to go through these past paper as we're going to be sending them some blank past papers that they will work. One of the things is that we want to point out that the past papers, some of the questions continue to repeat. I want to get ourselves all familiar with the past papers. I know that for some cases, persons don't have time to go through any past paper. So what we do, or what we did today, was pretty much to just sacrifice the class to allow students to go through these past paper. We would have sent the link. So if you were supposed to scroll up, you would have seen link for both biology and HSB. You can go on over and work the papers just the same. Pretty much please be reminded to like, share, and of course subscribe. Uh, and show the station you love as much as you can. We're happy that you're here and really want you to come back. That's Denzel and Queen. I think we're seeing you for the first time, and we really want you to come back. Sherrington, are these your friends? You're always here. We know you, Sherrington. All right, so we want you to come back and invite the other friends to come back. We have classes on a Sunday, Wednesday, and a Friday at 5:05 p.m. Our next topic will be variation. Next topic will be variation. We just completed mitosis and meiosis. I think mitosis was volume 40 and meiosis is volume 41. And this lesson is pretty much volume 42. So in volume 43, we're going to be hammering home variation. We have some video, are all the videos on the channel. You could go to the channel and look for the video for all those genetic cross. The only thing we did not put up, the Punnett square, but that will be up. But we think that we are going to be going to the back of the syllabus based on some statistic that we provided earlier. If you have not yet, please ensure that you see a copy of the syllabus. We have it on our site, and if you were supposed to scroll through, you would be able to see the link. And there's what we call breaking news from CXC. That's another very important document that you want to make sure that you see. So visit the channel. When you go to if you don't know how to get into the back of the channel, back end of the channel, just let us know and we will teach you how to get there, because we know that a lot of students really don't know how to find all the videos on the channel. So we are prepared to help you with that. I am not teaching this evening because I have these working on. All right, so I have a whole lot of books working on. I might be seated in front of a computer, but I'm marking, and I'm going to be uploading. So pretty much that is why you haven't seen me doing anything. All right, so I am here searching through, putting these things together. Angel, are you new? So I was just talking. Angel, are you new? So Queen and uh, Denzel, just please scroll up, and whether you're doing HSB or biology, just click the link and go through the papers. The questions are already all worked out. Okay, Angel, we're doing past papers this evening. The links are in the chat. If you scroll up, you would see there are several links. There are links there for all sorts of stuff. So just scroll through and find your link. We're using the time to do past papers this evening. We sent two past papers. We sent, I think, 2019 and 2020 for HSB. They're already worked. And we've also sent 2020 and 2018 for the biology. You want to go on over and, of course, enjoy those. All right, so I will be on screen. If there's something, you can type it, but my mic will be muted as was, and I'll be here marking. I might be looking at the screen, but I'm pretty much looking at the mark scheme and marking the books and entering the grades. All right. Thanks much for being here. And remember to invite on over your friend. And remember to subscribe. All right. Remember to subscribe. Remember to watch the videos. If there are some links there, just watch all the links. These are important links, and we'll put them in today because most time you guys don't know where to find them. All right. Thanks. Invite your friends on over. Okay, I am going to end the show now. I am going to be giving you the email address as is asked by Gray, and then I am going to be sending that bit of information. Okay, so I am going to be sending you that bit of information from the back end of the channel that Gray asked for just now. And is there anything that you want to make mention of in the chat? Anything you want to tell me before I go? Anything you want to tell me before I go? All right, so usually you click on that blue icon that says CSEC Biology TCP, and then it's going to take you to the back end of the channel, wherever you see the icon. Then you are going to click on About. And when you click on About, it will go for business inquiries, and you'll see email. You click on that email, and then you'll see the email address. All right, so here we go. What was it like for us? That's the email address for those persons who want to reach me. You can send your email there, or you could, of course, leave it in the chat. It was good being with you today. I look forward for those mails to say, of course, what it was like, and I will make available that phantom paper that you can truly test yourself. So you want to be going over this paper a number of times for the week. You want to ensure that you're studying and keep your eyes on that goal. It should never ever be about you not being able to pass. It's always going to be about you doing well in the exams. So that's going to be it for me this evening from Kingston, Jamaica. Thank you very much for logging on. We're seeing some 202 persons being locked into the show. We're really grateful that you're here. Though you're not all logged into the channel, we're really grateful that you have been viewing the show. That's Anai doing his stuff over there. So we're going to say a good evening until we meet on Wednesday at 5:05 when we're going to be having a live class, not a camp like we were having today. Thanks much for joining. Goodbye.